All right, so explain the rise and the fall of the Franks. Okay. Obviously, you see the empire there. It does form into this empire. And we'll talk a little bit about the other empire I had in your vocab. So the last vocab term you should have is an empire I want to mention, I want to discuss as we move forward. Okay. So there you go. Charlemagne, obviously a huge figure during this time. So I'll give you guys a couple more minutes here, work on that. Again, I recommend writing a date down and then the question. So I can help you with your study guide, because that's your study guide, your bell ringers, your vocab. All right, okay, the Franks. Okay, I know I didn't go through the whole family tree here, but when it comes to the Franks, this is a small kingdom that formed where? Where did it form? What modern day country that we know of in Europe? Brody, go ahead. France, yeah, no doubt. Anyway, when it comes to with associated with this kingdom, well, after the fall of Rome, there was no protection, right? All these countries within Europe, I know this map's a little bit newer, so to speak, right? All these countries look like this, right? There's all these small kingdoms all scattered out throughout Western Europe. Okay. Is there unity there? No, right? Is there protection? No. That's why they decide to adopt feudalism. Okay. At the same time, if they unite, right, if these kingdoms here come together, they're going to have a little bit more strength, right? They're going to have more protection, right? And under a long line of leaders like Clovis, I know I didn't talk about, right? Charles Martel, Pepin the Short, these are guys who are all a part of this Carolingian dynasty. It'll end up here with Charlemagne here soon. Charlemagne, known as Charles the Great, right? The first Holy Roman Emperor. He's the one who's going to pretty much unite Europe together, right? It's not going to be all of Europe, but it's going to be a pretty big chunk of it. So right down here in the parts of northern Spain, all of France, and all of right here, the Holy Roman Empire on this map, okay? And he unites all the way down here too, to parts of Rome, right? And this is going to protect the Catholic Church. So Charlemagne decided, you know what, we're going to try to unite not only these kingdoms together, but who else with this empire he's starting to create, this Carolingian empire? Who else is he going to bring in and utilize as a means of glue that's going to hold this civilization, this empire together? Jason. Oh, yeah, it's the church, right? The Catholic Church. Good, good. And with that, it's going to bring a means of good ethics, right? Good moral ethics. Awesome. Okay, it's gonna be a means of culture that the people can unite over, that they can bond over, right? It doesn't matter what kingdom you're a part of, it doesn't even matter if you speak a different language, but if you can bond over one thing, right, this is gonna unite people together, and that's what religion did here, and that's what the Catholic Church did, right? Obviously, the Pope sees this as a means of a watchdog. He sees the Carolingian Empire, Charlemagne, as this protectorate of Christianity, of Europe, right? And again, who is that rival that's just approaching here, moving in parts of North Africa, parts of the Middle East, and moving into parts of Southern Europe? And this was a threat to the Pope, let's face it, right? Go ahead, Haley.
Muslims.
Yeah, Islam, right? So when it's Islam, this religion is moving up, these Muslim raiders are moving up into parts of Europe. This scared the Pope, right? He needed this protectorate, right? He needed Charlemagne. Anyway, Charlemagne again will be crowned what? What will the Pope crown him as? Oh, this is important. This is important. Jason? The first Holy Roman Emperor. Good job. And this is significant. This is impactful. And we finally see Europe uniting, coming together after the fall of Rome. Anyway, what was that term called? I call it a rebirth of ancient Rome. What is that term called, Jenna? The Renaissance. Good job. This Carolingian Renaissance takes place, right, shortly after the fall of Rome, right? You're looking at 400 or 500 years. I know it's a long time, but for this point, we finally see unity, right? We finally see an escape from the Dark Ages. This is going to bring on the High Middle Ages. All right, good. All right, so with the Holy Roman Empire, I want to make sure you guys know it. This is going to be this united empire here throughout Central Europe. It's going to last a test of time, right? A strong sense of unity, protecting Christianity, right? And obviously infused with it. So anyway, when it comes to Charlemagne, yeah, this was great. He provided education for his people, which this guy didn't even know how to read and write. But when it comes down to it, it's important that not just the hierarchy of the church knows how to read and write, but also his leaders, right? Also his people. Because if you have an informed society, an educated civilization, well, you're going to see a bright future, let's face it, right? Okay, you're not going to be stuck in the Dark Ages much longer. You're going to start to see sophistication, right? You're going to start to see enhancement. And this is what, again, is going to bring on this High Middle Ages that we're going to move to right now. Okay? So, what happens here, unfortunately? What happens with Charlemagne? After he passes away, darn it, Jason, what happens? Yeah, good job, right? So we didn't get the Renaissance right away here, right around the year 1000, just because, well, yeah, you got it. Fights in the family. So when it comes to Charlemagne, anyway, his kids were fighting over the rightful heir to the throne, the rightful heir of this huge, massive empire. And unfortunately, well, as you have this fight and disputes and a split within an empire, and as they're sectioning off these areas of land, these kingdoms all throughout Europe, you start to see division. Okay, you start to see division. And as it's breaking apart, is it strong? Is it as strong as what it once was? No, it's not. So with Charlemagne, there was a rebirth, right? There was prosperous times. There was advancement through education, right? Things were looking like it was going to move quick, get back to this Roman Empire. But unfortunately, because of division, well, it didn't happen. Anyway, like I mentioned, the Holy Roman Empire will stay in place, okay? Even though these kingdoms break apart, right? You can see here when it comes to go to the Germans, right? You can see the Charles of Gaul, right? As it starts to separate all throughout Europe, one thing still bonds them together. And what is that? What still brings these kingdoms together? Even though they don't see eye to eye. What does it? What brings it together here? Naomi, go ahead. Christianity, good job. So if the Pope, let's say, calls for the Crusades, well, you better damn believe that all these kingdoms are going to come together and fight in these crusades and listen to what the Pope has to say. Even though they might have their own disputes, Christianity still brings them together. All right, good. All right, so we're going to move on here, guys. Okay, this was called the Treaty of Verdun. This is what separated the Carolingian Empire. And yeah, we'll talk about Verdun later down the line when we get to World War I. Right, important battle, very important battle. So you can see how a lot of these terms will pop back up. Okay, a lot of these places pop back up. Anyway, real quick, as this kingdom starts to separate, as it starts to fracture, well, who's licking their chops here? Who's eyeing up Europe now? Who do you think? You think the Vikings just left? No, they didn't. These Viking raiders see their opportunity, right? They see now an ability here to say, you know what, maybe we can spread our culture, right? Maybe we now can spread our beliefs, our ideals, right? Our, I guess you could say our people all throughout Europe. And we'll talk about William the Conqueror here soon. We'll mention about how he's going to span pretty much all of Europe, and the Vikings are going to make their way into parts of all these kingdoms and infuse with them. And that's going to create a language that we know in many of these European countries today, which is important. So we'll talk about that here soon. Anyway, Viking raids pick back up because Charlemagne, well, his empire is weakened. So here are your terms. Here are your terms. So I have a little section, High Middle Ages. So at the very top, like I mentioned before, when it comes to these terms, I like to section them all. So I have the early Middle Ages up here. We moved through this already, right? And now here we are, the High Middle Ages. Again, you can kind of see the transition point, right? You can see when Europe transitions to the High Middle Ages. Even though the Carolingian Empire falls apart, so to speak, well, there's still advancements, right? Charlemagne kind of he laid out, right? He laid out the means of growth, the means of expansion. So from here on out, they can build on that thanks to Charlemagne. All right, so the moldboard plow. Okay, geez, all right, what is that? It's just simply a plow, right? It's simply utilizing domesticated animals to help with agricultural growth, agricultural production. So I know it seems very simplistic, but as you expand food production, well, what's going to happen to the population? It's going to boost, right? It's going to boom. So that's important. That's very important. So I know you're thinking, what the plow? What is this? Well, as simple as it sounds, more food means bigger population.
I couldn't find
Right.
Beats One in your Apple Music library.
Whoa,
You can
geez,
ask me
Siri.
to play a radio
Where's someone-
station
Oh,
or ask for
okay.
your music on a different app.
Anyway, so when it comes to the growth too of food, more food means better immune systems. Okay, so maybe life expectancy will rise. Great, awesome. All right. Anyway, we'll talk about it. Bigger population means bigger armies protecting Christianity. All right, when you get to Pope Urban II, the Crusades, well, you can see how these kingdoms are still bonded together yet. All right, so I'll give you guys some time here. Work on these terms. And we'll move on. All right, anybody need another minute yet? Okay, no problem, no problem. I just got a lot of pictures for you anyway at the start. Oh, really? I thought the defensive was five. So I think that happened. All right, guys. Anyway, so when we get to the Crusades here, we'll talk about it. I don't know how much time we'll have, but if I get to it, great. If not, I mean, I'll talk about it tomorrow, obviously. But I will have an assignment for you where you'll look through it. I'll have it not due tomorrow, but Thursday. Okay. So you have some time to work on it. So I'll publish that here shortly. Anyway, so as we're looking at the High Middle Ages here, well, what is this transition? How does this transition happen? Well, yeah, unfortunately here, when you think of Charlemagne's empire, it does break apart. It splinters apart. And all of a sudden now you see these raids pick back up. You see these Vikings entering in parts of Europe where Charlemagne had this massive empire. He protected it, right? Let's face it. This was unity. This was protection that Europe didn't have since the end, well, ever since Rome. Well, as Charlemagne again, his kingdom splinters, well, these raids start to pick back up. Anyway, one thing though is that this Carolingian Renaissance provided insight, provided a means of growth, right? In Europe, that brings on a different age within Europe. It's known as the High Middle Ages. So we leave the early Middle Ages, known as the Dark Ages, and see more advancements, right? And a lot of that, again, comes from Charlemagne, his empire, and this innovation in incorporating education. All right, so how do we get from this? Well, it looks kind of nice though, right? Look at this temple. Okay. Okay, this tomb of this barbarian ruler. Cool. Well, what about this? Wow, geez. Okay, I just think that's a little bit more innovative, right? I think that looks a lot more advanced than what we just saw in the previous slide. So we'll talk about architecture here in the next couple of slides here, next few days, and mention about how Europe goes through this advancement, this innovation, right? And they utilize the themes of Christianity and apply it in a lot of these major, massive buildings, right? Some that are still around today, obviously. It's a picture. So yeah, okay. So when it comes to Gothic forms of architecture, this is starting to appear, right? They're combining Christian themes and incorporating in their own architecture and their own artwork, right? And it's beautiful. Let's face it, it really is. And what happened without Charlemagne? Probably not. Cade, right? Yeah, okay, cool. All right, what about this? Canterbury Cathedral. Look how beautiful that is, Brody, huh? Geez, nice, nice. I mean, you see themes of certain churches, and a lot of them mimic this. Obviously not maybe like this, but a lot of these cathedrals being built right around this time and incorporating these new forms of architecture. Again, beautiful, magnificent, right? And I think the Dark Ages, right? The Middle Ages get a pretty bad rap because this is beautiful, right? You can't deny that. Look at the inside of these cathedrals, right? These chapels, unbelievable. The structures start to change, right? Yeah, you see columns, you see pillars, but you see very high arching roofs, right? That you never seen before. And artwork that's going to be decorated on these ceilings that is just going to be magnificent. Stained glass windows, right? And different types of supports like flying buttresses. What? That sounds just bad. Anyway, flying buttresses that support the building on the outside. So again, very beautiful. All right, so manuscript even too. You look at different types of artwork within Bibles, right? Within religious texts. You start to see gold embroidered, right? You start to see pictures that forming in these types of works. So yeah, the Middle Ages, I think they get a bad rap. They really do. And there was a lot more of, profound advancement and evolution of it. All right, anyway, we'll talk more about it tomorrow. I'm gonna post your assignment here. Thank you. Hey, guys, your forms, you just folded that all up, Sal. Just throw that out, okay? That's just done for. Brody, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Guys, check out the assignment. It's about the Crusades. You guys can get a head start. I'll talk about it more tomorrow, though, okay? It shouldn't take you long, I promise. What's up, bud? Oh, that's right. Let me end this meeting here, okay?